This episode of the Young and Pruitt podcast is brought to you by Carpy's Custom Screen Printing. If you need labels, t-shirts, banners, race car graphics, window stickers, and anything else in between, give our buddies over at Carpy's a call. Or you can email them at sales@carpys.com. You can also find them on Twitter and Instagram. Twitter, hit them up at Carpys_CO. Or Instagram, it's at Carpys. And you can also look them up on their website, www.carpys.com. Give them a holler, tell them what you need, and they'll come up with a perfect product for you.
And once you are done shopping at Carpy's, be sure to head over to youngandpruitt.com, where you can find every single episode of this podcast. Ones like Bobby Allison, Joey Knuckles, Spencer Davis, and all the long line of Timmy Petcheck episodes. You can check out Layla's blog. You can head over to our fan forum, create a membership, join the discussion, and talk about anything you want. Be sure to like, follow, subscribe on iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube. Be sure to hit us up a nice review. Go over on Twitter, Instagram, at Young and Pruitt on both. Joining us today, we have pit crew coach Joe Piette. Joe is a longtime tire changer and race mechanic, and he is in charge of coaching some of the most competitive pit crews in the series today for some of the most competitive race cars in the series today. He's a super nice guy, very well spoken. I hope you guys enjoy.
And essentially hypermile them to see who can get the highest fuel. So they have like a urban class and a prototype class. One of the prototypes got like 830 miles a gallon.
Good gosh.
800, yeah.
Lord.
And they're also developing batteries and hydrogen systems too.
Yeah, well, didn't you say that the
Wow.
gas tank is only like a gallon, right?
Oh, you only get like 250 milliliters, so it's nothing.
Wow.
And then they make you race them for 7 laps at the end of the event. Like,
Cool.
Like
7 laps around Sonoma.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So how many miles is that?
Well, it was a cut down course. We cut it down to like a 1 mile.
Oh,
We had to do a custom course. We use the same bumper system as like Formula E.
Okay. Yeah.
So we spent 12 hours a day on Monday and Tuesday putting those together.
Oh, man.
It's not just like bolting blocks together. It's pretty intense.
and the cool thing about it, it's a driver and a passenger, right?
Just a driver.
Just a driver,
And then you have the team spot. They calculate fuel mileage. They do everything. So
which is extremely
Wow.
important.
it's go farther and not go faster. But
I was going to say, it's not really a speed race, is it? It's more of a...
Yeah. So they'll actually spot and be like, okay, so you're going down a hill here. Don't touch the gas pedal until you're like at this moment. So, and if you hit the gas at a certain part of the hill, it'll propel you through like a nice sharp corner, so you can just roll off the gas the entire time. And it's less taxing than if you were hitting the gas on a flat part of the track, because your momentum's worth more as you're coming down the hill, so you get a little bit more speed. There's a whole
there's
science
a whole theory
to
and
it.
science behind it. Yeah.
So do they keep going until the last person stops?
So you got to do 6 laps in under 25 minutes. So it's like simulating like kind of like a real like city style driving.
So you have to get after it. You can't.
So you can't be off it all the time. You still have to have like some pace, and it's kind of like simulating the on and off driving through like city traffic.
Wow.
definitely that's something like. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, do you think that's going to be part of our future for the roadways, those kind of vehicles?
Yeah,
those kind of,
eventually.
Think so?
Actually, there's already plans for Shell's future, how they're going to make their fuel stations like gasoline, hydrogen, and battery
Wow.
to cover all fueling bases.
Right.
And then there's actually like a counterparty called like the Association of Human Drivers that is like,
Yeah, I just heard that on the podcast.
yeah, so
It's,
they're
what's his name?
Matt Farah.
Yeah, Matt
from
Farah.
Smoking Tire.
Gee.
So that whole thing is to let humans still keep the right to be driving themselves and not be forced to go to fully automated driving in the future.
So basically, the NRA of cars.
Yeah,
Very
it sounds
similar.
like it, yeah. Driverless cars scare the hell out of me.
Yeah, I'm not ready for that.
I'm not either.
Yeah, it's the weird thing where they said that they got to figure out. I forget what the theory is or the dilemma that it's called, where if the car is going to have to make the decision between killing you or killing whatever you run into. So if there's people crossing the street, is it going to swerve and possibly kill you, or is it going to keep going and hit them and keep you alive?
That's why it scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I'd rather make that decision.
But those Tesla cars, they've gotten really good. There's that one video on YouTube of the one predicting the crash like right before it happened.
Yeah.
It's like several cars up, and it has like a accident warning, and it goes boop, boop, boop. And then you look forward 2-3 seconds later, all the cars start wadding up.
Wow.
Couldn't even see it. And the guy grabs the wheel and hits the brakes.
That's crazy.
I think those Teslas bring in something like 600,000 data points a second or something like that.
Wow.
It's unreal.
But that's not what we're here to talk about. We've actually been rolling.
Yeah.
Since I started. But
that's all good.
But we got Joe Piette on the show with us today. He's a pit crew coach with Stuart Haas Racing. And we're not going to talk about what you normally talk about. I know you've been talking about all the current events with pit stops and pit equipment and stuff like that. But I've always known you as being on pit road and being someone to always look up to and someone that really knows their stuff when it comes to being on a pit crew. But I've never necessarily heard your story of how you got started. So how did Joe Piette Jr. get started into racing?
Joe Piette Jr. was born in Wisconsin, northern Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. But for those of you that know Wisconsin, there's a lot of good short tracks up there. There's actually a lot of good racing up there. And a lot of NASCAR drivers have started in Wisconsin, right? I mean, we could go back in the list, but to make a somewhat long story fairly short, I just wanted to get into racing. I would go to the short tracks up back home. I never had any money to actually race myself. If I would have had money, I would have liked to try to drive and do that kind of thing. I actually did try to drive one time, and I could tell that here in a minute, but didn't work out so well for me. But what I did is I took a ride down to North Carolina in 1988, drove myself down, and went to Dave Marcus's race shop. And Dave Marcus is actually from the same hometown that I'm from, Wausau, Wisconsin. I never met the man, didn't know the man, he didn't know me. But we had this connection, right? So I thought, I'm going to go, and the first place I'm going to go and try to talk to someone about how does a kid from northern Wisconsin get a job in NASCAR racing. Drove to his shop. There's some guy out there pushing a lawnmower, and I say pushing a lawnmower, not riding. And I pull into the little parking lot, and there's 5 or 6 cars there, and it's probably a 4,000 square foot shop. And as I get closer, I realize it's Marcus himself. So Dave Marcus is out there pushing the lawnmower, cutting the grass. Which
that sounds about
for
right.
anyone that knows Dave Marcus, it's classic Dave Marcus, right? Mm-hmm. And I pulled in the parking lot and got out and walked up to him, and he stopped cutting the grass, and I introduced myself. We shook hands and started talking, and I said, well, how would a guy like myself get a job, in North Carolina or in NASCAR racing? He said, well, it's like any other job. You send a resume and probably have a job interview and see what happens. This was September of 1988. So we talked a little bit and chatted, and of course I threw out the fact that I was from the same hometown he was, and through that conversation there were some mutual people that we both knew, mm-hmm. which was good, right? And it was pretty obvious to me that he was okay with people from Wisconsin. All right. So he told me that, he said, I'm looking to hire 2 people for next season. I said, oh, cool. This will be for the 1989 season. And he said, I'll tell you what, if you're serious, you go back home, you get your job situated that you currently have where you can come down and work for me for 2 weeks in December. And there'll be a trial period. And work for me for 2 weeks. We'll see how it goes, and we'll go from there. I mean, no promises, nothing like that. Just come on down, work for me for 2 weeks, and we'll see what happens. So that's what I did. I was actually working at United Parcel Service. I was part-time, mm-hmm. okay, which was a great job. I'm a 21-year-old kid back then, making more money than all my buddies, working full-time at restaurants and things like that, because United Parcel Service was probably one of the best jobs in the town I was from. And of course, in December, that's not a good time to take time off at United Parcel Service.
No.
I talked to my supervisor, straight up honest with him, told him the opportunity that I had. And he said, man, I can't let you off in December. It's just our big time of the year. I can't do it. So I went back home, thought about it, made a somewhat conscious decision that, well, damn it, I'm going to go down and try this job. So I ended up quitting my job at United Parcel Service.
Oh.
My parents, they thought I was off my rocker, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
You did what? To do what? Right? So I did. And I ended up quitting my job there. And on my drive back to North Carolina, which was about 16 hours, I thought, man, I really got to get this job. Otherwise, I'm going to really look stupid, right? And came down, worked for Dave for 2 weeks. Now, at that time, in the late 80s, there was actually 2 manufacturers' tests at Daytona each year, one in December, one in January. So Dave was racing Chevrolets. Well, in the 2 weeks that I was there working for him in that trial period, we actually went to Daytona and tested, and he took me with him. Well, of course, I thought I died and went to heaven when I got to go to Daytona, right? Because I had never been to Daytona. Man, Dale Earnhardt was a Chevrolet driver, and he was buddies with Marcus, and I got to hang around those guys. And I mean, you can just imagine, right?
Oh, yeah. Big eyes.
Yes. I mean, these are people that I've been watching on TV that I never thought I'd ever meet or see in real life. And kind of a funny little story. The first day we're at Daytona, went in the bathroom, used the bathroom, like guys do. And I was standing there doing my business, and somebody walked in next to me. And, of course, I'm not going to be too obvious, but I kind of look over a little bit, and all I could see down the leg of the fire suit, it said GM Good Wrench.
Wow.
Well, it's a good thing I was in the bathroom because I would have peed myself if I wasn't, because I was standing next to Dale Earnhardt, taking a leak, right? Man, of course, that was before cell phones and all that. I think I spent probably $20 in the motel that night calling back home to my parents to tell them that I actually peed next to Dale Earnhardt. So, and it was that's just the way it happened. Thankfully, everything went well. I had some mechanical experience just working on, local late model cars and dirt cars and things like that. And Dave himself and a couple guys that worked for him, he had 5 full-time employees at that time, by the way, running a full cup schedule. They were great to work with as far as showing me how to do things and telling me what they wanted done. And as it turned out, after the 2 weeks, he said, yeah, man, if you want the job, you can have it. Come on back in January. So that's how it all started.
There's a kind of a common theme of guests that we've had on here. They've burned the bridge when they cross it and they move down here. Like most of the guests, they kind of make it to where that their only option is to succeed in racing.
That's kind of the way it was.
So
yeah,
there's no turning back. So you are completely motivated into what you're doing.
Sure.
There's no going back. But it's the one thing that I did get from that story. Was weird, but you don't have any of a Wisconsin accent at all.
But you got that was 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
So in that 30 years, I found a lady down here that I married. We've been married 26 years, and she's from the hills of Western North Carolina. So you talk about an accent from the hills. I mean, she has it. And we had 2 girls, and they grew up in North Carolina. So I guess it's just kind of went away.
He's assimilated to the local culture.
Yes, he has. Very well spoken, by the way.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So what was your first gig over the wall?
Again, with Marcus, with 5 full-time employees. At that time in 1989, when I actually went to my first race, which of course is the Daytona 500, biggest race of the year, we had, and I'm pretty sure I'm right, seven guys over the wall. But I know for a fact we had 3 air guns.
Yeah.
So we had 2 guys on the right side changing tires. We had to have someone on the left side to break lug nuts loose. And then typically that person would start on the left front when the car stopped, and then jump to the left rear and then actually change the left rear tire. Well, that was my gig. Since I worked for Dave full time, I'm a road guy as well, road mechanic. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, you're gonna break left side lug nuts off. Okay, well how do I do that? There was no training facility. There were no pit coaches. There wasn't any of that, right?
No 5-6 different angle cameras to break this down.
Nothing like that. So he showed me. I mean, Dave himself showed me what to do, and I'll never forget. That was when the TV folks, I want to say it was probably ESPN at the time, had a helmet cam on Jimmy Maycar changing tires. And I was able to record that on my VCR at the time. I bet I played that video back 1,000 times.
That was your film review?
That was my tutorial on how to change tires, right? Because like I said, we didn't have anyone, that was going to show us how to do it or anything like that. So I just used anything I could find to learn how to do it. And we went to Daytona, and I did the left side lug nut deal there, and it was okay. It wasn't bad. I think Richmond was actually the second race of the year. And let me back up a little bit. We didn't fly around like we do now, right? Mm-hmm. Now we have it made. We're all spoiled with these private planes and all that we have. Mm-hmm. And so I rode in the semi. And I rode in the semi to Daytona. I rode back from Daytona in the semi. I rode in the semi, our race hauler, up to Richmond. And we got up there, and you can look this up, but that race got snowed out. When we pulled into the racetrack property, people were running snowmobiles around the property. There was that much snow. So I got to go to Richmond, and I got to see the outside of the track. We never got in with the hauler, but I got to see snowmobiles running around, and we had to turn around and go back. When we turned around and went back the following week or whatever the schedule was, I can't recall that, but I graduated up to being the front tire changer, which was pretty quick. And it was simply because I was there. It wasn't because I was good or I knew what the heck I was doing. It was because I was there and I was an employee. And like I said, we had really 3 people at the track. We had Dave, who would do a lot of the motor work. Back then, changing valves, doing plug checks, reading spark plugs, all these kind of things that we used to have to do. Mm-hmm. We had the truck driver, who was also a mechanic. He had to do all those kind of things. And then myself. And that was it. That was our road crew the first half of the weekend, or the first part of the weekend. And Dave would have to bring extra people in to do pit stops. So if you were there at the track, you were going to do something on a pit stop. And that's just kind of how it happened. And you talk about OJT, on the job training. I can remember sitting in the shop at night. He wanted me to change front tires. Because, and this is going to be a familiar name for you, Mike Trower was the rear tire changer. And he was good. Mm-hmm. And I had met Mike, red-haired Mike, and very nice guy. And I was intimidated. I mean, I was major intimidated at first because I'm like, I've never done this in my life, and this guy's been doing it, and he's going to kick my butt, and I'm going to look stupid. And I sat in our shop hours at night after we got done working, jack a car up, hit lug nuts, take them off the right front, figure out how I wanted to pull a tire. I mean, just self-training. And that's what I did. And we may have had 1 or 2 actual pit practices at the shop throughout the first couple of years. Mm-hmm. But we just went to the track and did what we could do, Our truck driver at the time was a jackman. And as a jackman, you're going to love this, and I swear this is a true story right here. The jacks back then probably weighed close to 40 pounds.
Yeah.
The jack that he used to jack the race car, he called old 711. 7 pumps on the right, 11 on the left. And that's a true story. And if you go back and see video from back then, those guys are just a pumping away.
Yeah, and they wouldn't pick it up. They'd drag it behind them. And
drag it behind them.
Swing it around, take out everybody's ankles. And,
Yep.
Yeah, they never picked it up like
until someone took out a NASCAR official one day.
That's what changed the rule?
That's what changed the rule. And it was probably somebody with Junior Johnson, maybe Jeff Hammond or somebody like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But Trower is he's on the short list of, I think, pit crew guys that have a solid chance of getting into the Hall of Fame. just as a
Oh
pit
my
crew
gosh, that guy. Well, first off, he is one of the nicest people you will ever meet. I've never heard that guy get excited, mad, pissed off, scream, yell. I mean, he is just a super nice guy. I mean, I can't say a bad thing about him. He is the absolute Dalai Lama of tire changers. No question. He has more rings than he has fingers and toes to put them on.
Yeah, it's,
Wow.
it's
Championships.
crazy.
Yeah.
crazy.
Excellent problem to have.
Oh, yes. And you couple that with the fact that he's just such a good guy and he's awesome. I hope what you just said, I hope happens. If there's a pit crew member that ever gets into the Hall of Fame, he's got to be the first guy. He's got to be.
Yeah, we got a friend of the show, Joey Knuckles. He's always been kind of like our favorite pick to be on there. But I've always said that Trower, probably Chocolate's probably going to be on there.
Sure,
sure.
Oh, these guys, they're huge people in our sport, and they've seen so much change.
So when did it ever become your full-time job to be on the pit crew, or were you always just doing both?
I have always been some sort of a mechanic and then a tire changer, with the exception of my job at Stewart Haas Racing, which is pit crew coach. But other than that, before Stewart Haas Racing, I was at Penske Racing, and I was always full-time mechanic there and then tire changer as well. So never went the route of just strictly pit crew guy.
Do you remember when that transition started to happen? I guess you flew in guys just to be on the pit crew all the way back then. But actually, it's not the same as as it is now.
I want to say that Ray Everham started it with the Rainbow Warriors. And you know what? Mike Trower was one of those guys. So that I want to say, and that was maybe early, mid-2000s, somewhere in there. That sound about right? 2004, 2005, so. maybe?
Maybe a little bit earlier.
Maybe a little earlier. That could be. They might have been late 90s, actually. Yeah. But they started a trend for sure. And, Ray Everham obviously is a pretty smart individual.
Yes, very.
And I guess he just realized that if we can bring a pit crew in that does nothing but trains to be a pit crew, we can gain advantages on pit road. And, man, he sure did prove himself right. It's
just as you comb through the possibilities of gains and advancements that it's going to come up.
Absolutely.
We see it come up in everything now. Like the second that a new rule comes out, it's what can we do to go around it or to take advantage of it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's because
how are we going to make that rule to our advantage?
Yeah.
That's what you have to think.
When did the pit equipment start really evolving? So you said somebody took out a NASCAR official with the jack.
Yep.
That put a premium on a lightweight jack, so I'm sure that was probably part of the catalyst. But when did we start seeing CNC jacks and then, air gun programs and things along those lines?
I don't think that's been nearly as far back as some things. I want to say we'll go back maybe 10 years, 12 years, where we started. Actually, it was before that. It was actually before that. We were tinkering with pit guns.
Yeah, because 08 was 10 years ago. So
yeah, you're right. Yeah, I'm getting old. I forget. See,
yeah, somebody says 10 years ago. I'm like 1999 was a great year,
and I'm older than both of you guys. So I'm going to say 15 years ago, maybe people started realizing that how important pit stops were, and I think what happened was pit stops weren't looked at as closely by the teams or as importantly by the teams until more cars started being competitive. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
The more the cars on the racetrack that were competitive, the better you had to be in the pits or you stood to lose more. And it was harder to gain back on the racetrack.
Yeah, because eventually you see, okay, now where are we losing time?
Right.
Well, we're keeping next to them on the racetrack, but when we pit, we're losing our ass.
Right.
So that makes sense.
A lot easier to pass on pit road than it is on the racetrack.
Especially right now.
Yeah.
I don't think any driver would argue that fact right now. And, NASCAR does a good job of keeping things consistent. That's what they do. But it's really, really competitive. When I started, there was probably 10 cars that could win a race in a 40-car field, let's say.
Yeah.
43-car field. Now there's 30 in a 40-car field. Fair to say?
Yeah.
Well,
So you come on pit road and lose 5 spots, And we see it happen with a lot of our new rules. We see it happen still, but it's way more competitive than it ever has been. And I always tell myself, I don't think it can get any more competitive, and it keeps getting more competitive. I keep proving myself wrong on that one.
Well, it's always interesting to hear people say the golden years, like the 90s and the early 2000s was the best era, but we do have more competitive racing. We've got more money in it now than we did back then. So it's really hard to like quantify people's like opinions versus what, their perception of the past was. It's very
sure.
There's a huge delta there between, fact and reality, and you just hear so much of that and see it, like, social media and reactions. It's just it's from what he was saying, we are in the most competitive era of NASCAR.
Absolutely.
And there's just no doubt about it.
And you said the word perception. Perception is reality, right? I mean, it really is. What people perceive, a lot of times it's very hard to convince them different, and I don't think that's wrong or bad. It's just life. When I started, we ran a 500-mile race. If there was 5 or 6 cars in the lead lap, that was pretty good.
Yeah.
And that's the way it was. Nowadays, you run a 500-mile race, and you're having 25, 30 cars on the lead lap at the end of the race. But I still hear people say the racing's no good. I'm like, how can it be no good if there's all these cars in the lead lap,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I get it. Maybe there's not as much passing as they'd like to see, or maybe they don't spin out, or maybe they don't crash as much as they'd like to see. Obviously, I feel like we could statistically, prove what I'm about to say, but we don't have mechanical failures like we used to have.
Not at all.
Not many things break anymore because the parts are so good and the people working on them are so good and all that. So,
and these are reused motors now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's
and you're not seeing those failures that everybody thought we would.
When is the last time we've seen a motor just explode? I mean,
maybe
nobody in the top
a year.
25.
Yeah, that's
Exactly.
That's for one thing.
Yeah.
So if it is going to be someone, it's going to be somebody towards.
We saw Larson last year crack some motors in the playoffs that ultimately
That's
was
right.
his demise. But
Yeah, just about.
this year, different deal.
We pit for the 34 car, Front Row Motorsports, and we do their pit crew from Stewart Haas Racing. And at Las Vegas, we blew a motor up at Las Vegas. And I thought to myself, wow, that's the first motor I've seen blow in a long time. Well, come to find out, something went through the radiator, put a pinhole in it, the thing overheated and blew up. So
it wasn't even a
wasn't
mechanical
even-
failure.
right, it was a mechanical failure, but it was caused by something. It didn't just happen.
Yeah, or
Part of it.
yeah, the other thing is like the oil pump belt. Something will hit that, shred
off,
that
right.
comes off.
Right.
It's always like that's very. You're very right. Like I haven't really seen other than Larson. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
Yeah.
When that was.
Late last year.
And then, as far as a competitive car, yeah, it's been a while, and to come from a time when the leader being multiple laps ahead of second place,
Yeah.
it's just, I guess it's because it's so, you can see it now. It's so easy to tune in. Like you don't have to watch it before. Like
Right.
when you first started, like you had to watch the race. If you wanted to see what happened, like you
Yeah.
had to watch it.
You had to watch
Or
it.
you had to wait until Monday or Saturday or whatever to get the news.
Monday's paper came
Yeah.
out or what have you.
Yeah, you had to wait
Absolutely.
and see it. But now it's like, okay, well, I can follow the Twitter of my favorite team and I can mow the grass and I can sit there on the lawnmower and I can see up to date from their PR person. Okay, well,
Absolutely.
they just pitted and they just took 4 tires and 2 and
And
adjustments.
listen to the in-car radio.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
The amount of access we have is incredible.
I call it the microwave world we live in because everything happens right now.
Yes.
Yeah, we call it the generation Netflix.
Well, see, I'm not even there yet. So. I'm still on basic cable.
That's what we've called it because like just how we say, and we've made that argument a bunch about how the racing's good, the cars are good, we have the stars, all of that. But something's happening and people aren't showing up to these races. Right. And when we pull in, we'll have somebody on the team that's been around for a while and they always say, oh, I remember when these campgrounds were full and there was people everywhere. When was the last time you went camping?
Right.
Nobody
Yeah.
camps anymore.
Nobody camps
No.
anymore. If
So-
you do, it's in a a luxury motorhome.
Yeah. Glamping.
That's got a pooper and a shower that works, and you don't just go out by the tree and use the leaves,
Yeah, you're not. It's no one camps anymore. So
you're right.
So to say that no one interested in doing it, no one wants to go out there and sleep on the ground to watch this race that they could sit and watch their 60-inch TV that they're still paying on their Best Buy card.
Yeah.
Right.
So like, oh, well, we can't go because we're still paying on this thing.
Yeah, I mean, everything nowadays is consumed on demand. So
absolutely.
If it's, I mean, I've got every song pretty much ever created right here, and I can listen to that walking around the house, driving down the road. You have Netflix, you can record games now. You have, apps that were recorded at home and you can access it mobilely on your phone.
Sure.
I mean, you've got so many options that people are chasing a feeling of excitement and fun and joy like elsewhere. And those things that used to be prioritized as, sit down events in front of the television are now companion to what you're doing otherwise.
It's 100% true. I mean, it's so different than it was 15, 20 years ago. I mean, before the internet, obviously, it's huge.
Oh, yeah.
Right? I mean, I can remember putting aluminum foil on the rabbit ears of the TV back when I was a little kid, trying to get the best reception, right? On a black and white TV, for that matter. But, we have so much information at our fingertips, and these little things we carry in our pockets called phones, it's unbelievable.
Calling it a phone is selling it short.
It is selling it short. You're exactly right.
It's like a mobile supercomputer.
It is. It's a mobile supercomputer.
If you went back to like caveman, like you would be worshipped in Halo as like a deity. Like,
I want to get a flip phone again. I think I might get my old flip phone.
Well, they have those. They have those now, but they're also they're dumb phones now. They make dumb phones.
That's awesome. That would be for me because that's me.
It's funny how and that's what I was going to build off Zach's comment is eventually everybody's going to stop being Generation Netflix and it's going to cycle back around.
I think it's starting to.
Yeah.
A little bit. I really think it's starting to.
You're starting to see a lot of people, get more interested in outdoors.
Yes.
And people are using that more as a vacation instead of like a regular hobby. And so that tells me it's like you're saying, it's kind of re-entering the mindset. It's back in the standard conversation of people in general.
I think it's starting to kind of backtrack a little bit, but I don't know. Technology moves so fast.
Yeah.
And things just change so quickly. I don't think we're ever going to get back to where we used to be 30 years ago. I don't think that'll ever happen.
Yeah.
But I think and I hope people are realizing that, when you go to a restaurant and see a man and a woman sitting across the table from each other and they're both on their phones, they're not having a conversation. It's like, we have to have conversations, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a time and a place. I mean, I want to start a restaurant or a bar with no cell phones allowed. Well, and if you bring out your cell phone, you owe everybody a beer.
Well, what they're starting now,
something like that,
Yeah, put a penalty on it.
Yes, absolutely.
What they're starting now, you might have to look it up to see exactly what it's called, but it is a bag. So say if you were to go watch a comedian or a concert or an event or something like that, they give you this bag and you have to put your phone in it and it won't unlock until the show's over.
Oh, nice.
So you drop your phone in it, and then it used to be that they would put all the bags in like a locker, and then like no one could get to them.
Couldn't even get to them.
Yeah. So now they're saying, well, what if something happens? Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So now they put it in a clear bag so you can see it. So
But
then
you can't access it.
Yeah. So if you see it, like, oh my God,
I like it.
Something happened, and then you can take off running, but you can't touch it. You can't manipulate it at all.
Yeah.
And I forget what the hell it's called.
I know it's been used at like Dave Chappelle stand-up routines.
He was one of the first ones to start it.
Sure. No, that's a great idea. Otherwise, everybody videos it, records it.
Yeah, well, I think that was the original purpose.
Shows it to their friends, and then their
kinda.
friends don't go to the show because they just watched it on their buddy's phone, right?
Yeah.
There's that, and there's also the fact it's like just pay attention, like enjoy yourself.
Well, yeah. I'm old school, and I tell you, I still like having face-to-face conversations. And yes, I love text messaging and that kind of thing, but I still like calling people, and I still like having face-to-face conversations with people.
Mm-hmm. But the one thing that I don't want to see the sport do is, I mean, I hate to say it, but because it's in town this weekend, and please go if you are, the NHRA 4Y drag racing.
Oh, that's awesome.
But it's cool, but they had to change. They had to. it's not a gimmick, but they had to radically change something, and they had to make, now it's 4 wide. They had to do something to draw the casual fan back in to come see something, because that's what drives everything. Is the casual fan. Your base gets you through, but you have to do something like Ronda Rousey in the UFC. Like, how many fighters can you name in the UFC? You can probably name 3, maybe. And 2 of them are wrestlers now.
Yeah.
So if
2 of the biggest names in the sport.
If they're not fighting, then no one watches. You have your median, and then when they're there, it's 3-4 times as much.
Sure.
So you got to bring that buzz. You have to do something.
To
drive the casual.
Think
fan.
about who those people are. It's all middle class folks, and everything thrives off of a thriving middle class. So if middle class people have time to do things or money to go places, that's how you thrive yourself. Like you're saying, that you got to have that core base that keeps the doors open, but you want the wallets to get fat. You got to be able to be in the conversation of essentially the common people.
Sure.
But it drives, it needs drama to drive it. Like when Kenseth crashed Logano.
At Martinsville.
Oh, man.
Phoenix wasn't sold out until that happened.
Absolutely.
As soon as that happened, boom, it was sold out. When Hamlin crashed Chase, same thing happened. Sold out the next weekend. Every time someone threw a helmet, it's the next weekend. Like, it drives, everyone wants to see that. And it's something that sparks it and makes the casual fan say, I want to see what happens. I want to be there. I want to see what goes on. And that's what you need. And I think they tried it with the stages to try to get it. And it worked a little bit at the beginning, but then now everyone's figured it out and started doing little things here and there. They even had to close pit road 2 laps before the stage ends to stop people from cutting that corner, from pitting and then hurrying up and getting out.
Yeah, they figured out it was the thing to do.
Yeah, that's the first thing that happened.
We did it.
Because when it started in the trucks first, right? And that's the first thing everybody did.
We're going to pit a couple laps early.
At Daytona, as soon as okay, now one before the stage, what's going to happen? Half the field peels off. So now they'll go and restart in front of everybody else.
You might see that this weekend.
Well, Talladega is starting to be kind of more run like a road course race now.
Backwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get to the end and then see, because you'll see the Penske cars, they'll peel off before everyone else usually, because they're on their own deal. They got it figured out. They know exactly where we need to pit right now. Just put tires on it and go. And they've got it figured out.
And what you just said 2 times about Penske, that they have it figured out and they have a plan, you are spot on.
They do.
Because it just amazes me how those teams, when they start pitting at Daytona, Talladega, you're like, what in the world are they doing?
Exactly.
And at the end of the race, guess what? They're up front.
Yep. You're like, bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it works out for him.
Blaney ends up leading like 75% of the race.
Exactly. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Those guys got it going on.
I think it was any race where you don't lose a lap under green, they would pit. And they would pit, and they would run it like a road course. So California, Michigan,
Pocono,
Indy, places like that. If you could get down to pit road and get back out and not lose a lap, they would run it just like a road course.
And they're the best I've seen at it.
And sure enough, that last caution would come out late, and there's a 2 in the 22 sitting right up front. It might not be first or second, but they're at least in the top 4. They're in the first 2 rows.
Yeah.
Well, they don't call Mr. Penske the captain for nothing.
No,
Love that man.
That guy
That man is incredible.
Just an incredible human being. I'd struggle to believe he's actually from this planet sometimes.
Have you ever seen that? I don't even know if it's true, but it's always like a myth or of lore of the wind tunnel, the underground tunnel that he owns up in Pennsylvania or West Virginia, one of those places.
I have not heard about that one.
Pennsylvania.
He bought there's an old tunnel. You might want to look that one up.
An old wind tunnel?
No, it's an old tunnel.
Piece of highway.
Yeah, it's an old piece of highway, and he bought it,
Oh.
and it's inside the mountain. And they say that's where all of his secret testing goes, inside
Really?
the mountain.
That's a new one on me.
Yeah,
Wow, that's pretty cool.
See if you can. Well,
If it's secret, you're not going to find it on the internet, right?
well, someone leaked it. Someone leaked it, and they know because they figured out that he owns it. They've never been in it, but they know that he owns it, and they think that. Here, it's got to come up.
Wow.
The rolling hill, the secrets of Laurel Hill revealed.
Laurel Hill. That sounds like a mountain tunnel.
Yes, it does.
Oh, when you look at it, it looks like a doomsday bunker because it's all sealed. It's like got the big door on it.
Wow.
It's sealed. It's not completely sealed. You can still get in and out of it, but it's for sure there.
That's awesome. Well, if Mr. Penske's part of it, no matter what, it's a pretty cool deal then, because That man's incredible.
This one is saying Mr. Chip Ganassi is the Laurel Hill guy.
Oh, it's Ganassi? Shit.
Ganassi.
Whoops. All right. I was close.
Maybe that's why I never heard of Penske.
I'm sure Roger has one that no one knows
sorry.
about.
I was good. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Skirt. Sorry about that. Yeah, it's Ganassi that has it. Damn it. I thought it was Penske. But anyway, like they definitely have their stuff figured out, and they're usually right at the cutting edge because you could see that they're always up front, and they've been strong with just 2 cars for the longest time. It was always Hendrick and Roush before that. That Roush had 6 cars at one time, 6 Cup
I think
cars.
they did at one time. Yep, you're right.
So just to pool in all that information that they could, and they were still able to do it, and to switch to win Dodge right before Dodge left, they won the championship.
Won a championship for Dodge.
Yep, and then switched back to Ford and was able to be competitive right out of the gate. Like that's, and I mean Stuart-Haas is the same way. Like to switch the manufacturers that you did and to be able to
Last year.
to be able
win
to
the 500 first race out.
Yeah, that was pretty sporty.
Yeah.
that was a pretty good week right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was in the airport watching that one end, but that was that was pretty cool.
Isn't it amazing how you remember where you were at those kind of times?
Yeah. Well, I remember the year before, Truex and Hamlin, when Hamlin won by a nose.
Yep.
Where I was standing was so the start finish line would have been to my left at like 8 o'clock, and I was standing. The 78 and the 11 were pitted right next to each other that race. From our angle, it looked like the 78 had won.
Gotcha.
So the 78's all cheering, and then 5 seconds later, they all drop, and the 11 starts cheering.
Now that car sits in Denny Hamlin's living room.
Yeah.
Really? His 500 car?
Yeah, he built that monstrosity of a house, and then said he wasn't getting paid enough. But
Poor guy. I feel pretty bad for him.
but he's got that. He's got his living room, and then the showroom. He's got I don't know what all cars. There's like 2 or 3 cars in there. It's not.
I know he's got the 500 car. Christopher Bell has his chili bowl
Yes.
midget in his
That's
in
a
his
race
living
car
room.
there.
Yeah, but they didn't build the house
Yeah.
around the cars. They they took the car apart and brought it inside.
Well, he just didn't have enough room, the basketball, the full size basketball cart was taking up.
Yeah.
Too much room.
Too much room.
Too much space, yeah.
Man.
I tell you, the problem some guys have, it's just too bad.
Bobcats or Hornets cheerleader as a wife. I mean,
Yeah.
Denny is really struggling. I would never want to grow up and be that guy.
Struggling like a sewer
I
rat.
just,
Poor guy.
I'll think about him tonight in my prayers. Sorry, Denny.
Exactly.
When did you transition? So you were at Penske. How did you transition from full-time mechanic pit guy to pit coach?
It was 2008, and I was at Penske, had been there, that was my 7th year. I want to say August, September-ish of 2008. A person that I worked with at a different race team approached me at, it was actually, I forget what track it was, but approached me at the racetrack and said, "Hey, Piette, what are you doing next year?" I said, "Well, I'm not really sure, but I'm guessing I'm going to be at Penske." And I hadn't heard anything different. So I asked him, I said, "Why, you heard anything? Do I need to know something?" But in saying that, I was, I want to say 42 years old, a little bit long in the tooth for a tire changer, right? And I'm getting slower and the pit stops are getting faster. So, I mean, I'm not the brightest bulb on the porch, but I could see the writing on the wall, right? I mean, I understood, And so I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to be a cup tire changer the following year. We hadn't determined that my situation there at Penske as far as that went. They were about to start some Xfinity teams the following year. I believe 2009 was their first year with Xfinity cars. So I thought, well, surely I can, work my way into something there. And
Yeah.
at the very least, maybe be an Xfinity tire changer and a backup cup tire changer, whatever, And I hadn't really talked to anybody at Penske about it. I mean, it was back then in August. That's early to talk about things like that, but now it's not early, right?
It gets earlier
Yeah,
every
now,
year.
gets
now it's
earlier
like
every
the
year.
July scaries.
Exactly. So I like that, July scaries. Yep. So I had an individual come up to me at a racetrack and say, "Hey, what are you doing next year?" And well, I'm not really sure. Why? Why do you ask? Well, I'm going to be part of this Tony Stewart deal next year. I said, what deal is that? I didn't know what he was talking about. Well, all right, it's Tony Stewart and Gene Haas are going to merge together. It's going to be called Stewart Haas Racing, and we need somebody to come over and run the pit department. I'm like, all right. Had to ponder that for a minute. Looked at that gentleman and said, why in the hell would you ask me to come and run a pit department, a job I've never done before, for a team with the stature of Tony Stewart? Because he told me Tony was going to drive one of the two cars when they started.
No pressure.
Yeah. And I was a little bit confused. He said, well, here's the deal. I've worked with you in the past. I know your work ethic. I know your personality. We want someone with new, fresh ideas. And we want someone with an open mind, open book to come in and run our pit department, run our pit crews, and get it going like that. So I thought, well, this is pretty cool. And I was, I took that as a huge compliment. And went back home and started pondering that whole thing a little bit, and talked to him numerous times in the next week or two after that, and got some more details, and went back to the Penske folks and asked them plain, straight out, hey, what do you guys got planned for me next year? Didn't really get a solid, straightforward answer. And, it wasn't frustrating at the time. It was just, but I just told them, I said, I just would like to know what you have in mind for me next year. And they assured me I had a job. It wasn't like they were going to put me out to pasture and shoot me, which I appreciated. But they couldn't really give me a solid answer. So it rolled around into late September, early October, and I was getting pressure from the Stewart Haas people at the time. What are you going to do? We need to make a decision. So I went to the folks at Penske that I needed to and talked to them, and I said, hey, I'm going to tell you straight up, I've got an opportunity at another place for next year, and I'm not saying I'm taking it, and I'm not threatening you. I'm not holding you hostage for my position or anything like that. But I just wonder what you have for me in the future. I mean, Penske's a great place to work, great people. I love this organization, and I would be just fine being part of it for years to come. And heck, retire there, right? Couldn't get a straight answer. Just couldn't get a straight answer. So gave him one more chance, and ultimately just made a decision and took a leap of faith and committed to Stewart Haas Racing, or Haas CNC Racing at the time, and told him I'd take the job. Went back to Penske, and it was second week of October 2008, and I told the people I had to tell that I would not be returning the following year. And in typical race team fashion, which I somewhat expected, really? Well, we hate to hear that. But if you're not coming back next year, you just go ahead and get your stuff now and go ahead.
Yeah. Yep.
Standard. And it's standard. And I've been around long enough where, I didn't take it personally, right? I just, okay, that's fine. And thankfully I was smart enough with the Stewart Haas people, or the Haas people at the time. And I told them, I'm going to give my notice for next year. But if they tell me to pack my stuff, can I start here? I didn't want to go 2.5 months without a job. Right?
Yeah.
And no, they were good with that. So lo and behold, I actually started at Haas CNC Racing the third week in October 2008. Went to the last couple races with them, just kind of observing. And come January 1, started the new pit department at Stewart Haas Racing, and kind of went from there.
That's a big jump, because there really hadn't been a team that had done that other than Ray Evernham with the Dodge team. Like, for him to leave the powerhouse of Gibbs and come over to basically a starting park team,
that's right,
and say, hey, like, we're going to the front, come with me, and to leave someone like Penske, like, that's a big jump. That's a big commitment.
Well, again, I was very comfortable at Penske, and that can be a bad thing, because you get comfortable at an organization or in a current job you have, and maybe sometimes then you don't push as hard as you should, or maybe you don't give them all that you used to give them. And I don't think that was the case in my situation. But I'm going to kind of go back to how we started this conversation out. When I decided I was going to go down to North Carolina and try to get a job in racing, I quit my UPS job. So then I had to get a job in racing. Once I committed to the Haas CNC people to be working at Stewart Haas. Well, then, okay, I've got to make this work because I didn't want to turn back,
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of similar, and it's, 89 to 2008. What is that? 21 years different, something like that.
Yeah.
I guess things kind of come around full circle sometimes. I never really thought about that, but but once I made the decision and I knew what I was doing going forward, then I was 100% all in, and I think you have to be.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like you were new to it also, because you had probably helped Devo guys before, like, hey, like, hold a gun like this, like you want to do this in this situation.
Sure,
so you probably
newer people. And,
so you probably already had some coaching. To say that you went in blind isn't.
But to run a pit department with with the name of Tony Stewart on the building, that was big. That was big for me, and I'll be honest, it was a little bit scary. And but one thing I learned, and to your point a minute ago of, virtually not a starting park team, but Haas CNC, they had 2 cars that they had been running, and they finished, a 20th place finish, 15th place finish was really good. And to think that they were just going to turn that around in one off season. What I learned in that off season, and then when we started racing, was all of these drivers that drive these race cars that we watch every weekend, they're all good. Oh, yeah. But man, there's some that are just freaking great. You know what I mean? And there's not a big difference, but the difference makes such a difference for a guy like a Tony Stewart. It's just crazy.
You can't go machine that difference.
You can't
develop it. You can't buy it. You can't do anything. That's just
exactly right.
Unobtainium.
It is.
That's
exactly
just what
right.
it is, and that's what you're chasing in the wind tunnel, is to try to whittle away that little piece. But you're never going to get mechanically past somebody's talent who's in an equal.
It's amazing, and I never understood that there was that big of a difference. Which again, it's a very small difference for these drivers because they're all, like I said, they're all good. They're all very good at what they do. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it, right? Mm-hmm. But the best ones, it's just like, man, that guy just took a 7th or 8th or 10th place race car and won the damn race for us. I mean, it really opened my eyes to the drivers, and it's pretty cool.
They always say that it's their ability to communicate with their crew chief and their team to be able to explain to them exactly what they need. Like, I need this. It's not just, okay, well, I'm loose into one,
right,
or I'm tied into one. Like,
right.
We need to do this adjustment,
sure,
that adjustment. Like, Kyle Busch is big about that. He's like, he'll key up the radio. He's like, no adjustments, just do air pressure, or no, put me around in, put me around out. Like, you actually hear, and they'll tell you the changes. As a crew chief,
he could actually be a crew chief.
He probably could.
Newman knows cars inside out.
Newman knows cars inside out. Yeah.
Kenseth was good about that.
Yep.
I mean, you've got one of the best guys on the wheel now, Harvick. He's on that same level.
Pretty awesome. Yep. One of the best out there right now, for sure.
And his mental game is just untouchable.
Oh yeah.
Like, he can just get out there and bully you into a mistake.
If I could figure out how to make our pit crew guys be as mentally tough as Kevin Harvick is, man, we'd have some badass pit crews, I'm telling you. Because he is. Like,
that's
he
half
is.
the
Just the ability to block out everything and just
he's incredible.
attack.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's incredible.
And as a pit crew member, that's half the battle. It's because there's no defense. It's like, yeah, every once in a while you're going to get hit by a car, but there's no...
Really, Zach? Has that ever happened?
Once or twice.
Twice in a year?
Twice, but there is no defense. It's you versus you on how you can pit the race car.
Absolutely.
So it's all mental. It's like golf or like Olympic weightlifting or anything like that, where it's just you and the tasks that you have to do and going through your mental checklist to be able to do it and block out everything else.
I agree. It's, all these big race shops now have these spectacular gyms, and they have all the weights and all the treadmills and everything we need, and training rooms and ice baths and everything we need to maximize the human part of this equation. And there's no doubt, a lot of teams have figured out that the mental part is a big part of it as well. And I think a lot of teams are going that route as well, to train these guys not only physically, but mentally. because you look up and down pit road, the days of guys like me being top pit crewmen are pretty much over, I think. When I say guys like me, I mean 150 pound, 5'9", 5'10" guys, 150 pounders. I'm just not big enough to do what you guys do nowadays. I mean, look, you're a big guy, Zach. I mean, you got to be.
And I'm a small jack.
And you're a small jack. Yeah, you're right. You're right. So, it's progressed, it's changed over the years and everything, but the mental part of it is absolutely huge, and honestly, that's something that I think we need to work on at Stewart-Haas Racing right now too.
Yeah, it's like the Ivan Drago effect. He had all the big conditioning machines and all the steroids and all that stuff, and then little Rocky went out there and knocked
there you
him
go.
out.
Was he the big Russian?
Yeah.
I got you. Yeah.
Ivan Drago.
So how do you evaluate your talent when they come in? Like, how do you say, okay, couple workouts in, this guy's mentally strong, this guy needs work there, this guy's one of the most talented people? Like, how do you evaluate these different characteristics?
It's hard. I have got lucky with a few new development type guys, and I have failed miserably with other guys that I just knew were going to be great. And in a nutshell, our process: we bring somebody in that's interested, run them through some physical testing, try to get to know them a little bit. I've got what I call the dinner test. Okay, you come to me and you say, "Hey, Piette, I want to be a pit crew guy." I say, "Really, David? All right, well, let's talk about this." And if at the end of the day, after we have a conversation or we hang out a little bit, if I don't want to ever go to dinner with you, then you're probably not the right guy for me. And that's just kind of a culture.
That's actually a really good
It's simple, right?
process, yeah.
And I have strived in the last 10 years at Stewart-Haas to have the right people. Okay? Zach, you know this as well as anyone. There's people on pit road that are very talented, but they've never really made it on a top-level team. And it's not because they're talent level. It's not because they're not physically able to do the jobs, but they have a reputation.
Yeah.
Or they have a mouth, that, and y'all know how things spread. There's no secrets, right? I mean,
if it lasts more than a day, it's a miracle.
Yeah, exactly. So I think more people are understanding that nowadays, that you can't be a douchebag and expect to succeed like we used to be able to, right?
I like that rule of life.
Yeah.
That's a good one for the rest
I mean,
of us.
really, it's just the way I look at things. And
The way that I've always looked at that is you only have so many, like, if we were to describe it as little straws. Talent is one of them. Behavior is another one. Work ethic's another one. Attitude, and then your reputation.
Absolutely.
So if you have a bad reputation, take a straw away. You have a bad attitude, take a straw away. You're not a hard worker, take a straw away.
That's a great analogy as well.
Now you're left with behavior or talent, and you have bad behavior. Now you're just left with talent. So now if you're out there and you mess up during the race, well,
guess what?
that's the last one.
And, how quickly can that person become a cancer to everybody else in the organization?
Terrible.
That's huge.
Super quick.
Just destroy everything you've built.
Super quick. The rotten apple theory about, ruining the whole bunch.
Oh yeah.
It's huge. I mean, it's huge, and it is absolutely real. If you have a quote unquote cancer in your department or your pit crews or your organization, the sooner you can take care of that, the better off things will be. And you may suffer at first.
Sure.
Right? You may suffer at first, but long term it's better. And I've learned that working with these guys.
And it's usually those people that have run out of straws and they start getting desperate. And this is such a cool job, and it's become such a high-paying job.
Sure.
That people don't want to let that go.
Sure. I mean, it's livelihood.
and
Absolutely.
they're not going to let that go.
Well, plus it's just plain old fun too.
Oh,
And it beats the hell out of having a real job any day.
I mean,
it's way more fun on the racetrack than sitting on the race cat. I can speak for one.
Yes.
Well, think about how many NFL quarterbacks there are, and then compare that to how many full-time jackman there is. That it's a pretty similar number.
It is actually pretty similar. You're right. You're right.
And and if you stretch that across all three series, it's even less, because most guys do double duty. I don't anymore, but there was times where I would do what Indy was a 4-day weekend for me. ARCA, Trucks, Xfinity, and Cup.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
So I would pit all 4 races. So I'm taking that spot away from everybody. Now they've just honed us in on being cup because they don't want us to get hurt. So
They got some work to do.
A little ironic.
yeah, but it's I always like doing that personally. I always like doing multiple things because you got that warm up
Absolutely.
and you got more reps. So the Xfinity race, is very important. But at the end of the day, you can kind of, if you wanted to try something, you could try something. If you're in the truck race and you want to do something a little bit different and see what it's going to be right now, like it's not really going to affect the stop that much, and it's not going to cause damage like it would on the Cup
Sunday.
day. Yeah,
on Cup Day.
Yeah.
on the Cup day. So as you have the practice throughout the week, and then you go Friday, so then you do truck race, you do 2, maybe 3 stops. Then
Sure.
you're going to do the Xfinity race. You're going to do 3, maybe 4 stops, and that slowly weights you in. And you're not getting up at the crack ass of dawn on Sunday to get on a plane.
I mean, there's got to be some.
You're waking
some
up at
coordination.
You're
there.
waking up at 6 instead of 3.
Exactly.
And you're able to stop, get coffee, get breakfast. But this one, you're running to the airport, praying to God a deer don't run out in front of you or something, or something happens. So and I know this is, I don't want to jinx you, so let's knock on wood, but the sleepless nights of a pit crew coach hoping that make sure everyone makes this race day plane, and where's everybody at? And
Absolutely.
Like I can get on the plane and just kind of relax and close my eyes and fall asleep. He's sitting there going, okay, who's all here?
Exactly.
Okay, I haven't seen him. Okay, no text message.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, how much time? Okay, now.
And you're looking at the flight attendant up front because she's looking at you or he's looking at you, saying, where are your guys at? And like, okay, who are we missing, right? And you're starting to count heads. And you're looking around, and then you start looking at, okay, who's missing? Can we leave them? And if we leave them, what are the repercussions going to be for me personally, right?
Oh man!
Because what's their position, right?
And when I say that there's no wait, and when you say that you can leave them, I've personally witnessed looking out the window and seeing a guy with his bag and with his stuff rolling up, and the plane door is shut. And once that door's shut, they ain't open it, and we're taking off. And
Wow.
And he's standing there and just drops his stuff, and the plane takes off.
I can say I've
Seen
never
it-
seen that.
seen it
I've never seen it. I'm thankful I haven't
Seen it
I
multiple
was
times. Seen it
last
twice.
guy on the plane once, and the stares and the glares that you get.
Oh, it's brutal.
It's just like I will never
Yeah.
do this again.
No,
Well, yeah, I think I've brought this up, and this goes in racing, but it's a very predominant racing thing. If you are late, you're late. If you show up on time, you're late. If you're not on time unless you're 5 to 15 minutes early. If you're on time, you're late. So
Yep.
that
on time is late. You're right.
So that transfers to if you're the last guy, you're still late because you're the last guy. Regardless,
You're
if
right.
you're the last guy 30 minutes early, everyone's looking at you like, what the hell,
Yeah.
what the hell, dude? Where you been? You're like, I'm 30 minutes early. It's like, yeah, but we could already close the door. Let's go. It never fails.
No, you're exactly right. I learned a lesson about on time, not on time, late. What I thought was on time, I was late. And I learned that my second job in racing, I went to work for Stavola Brothers. Jeff Burton drove their car. Dick Trickle drove their car.
Okay.
When I went there, it was actually 1998. Hut Strickland was driving. And actually, I got to know Hut very well. We're very good friends.
Yeah, I seen that on
their
Twitter.
family. Yeah, yep.
He works at Stock Car Steel.
He does.
Perfect.
Pinelli. Yeah.
He does. Yes, he does.
Our last two guests
Greg?
ago was Greg.
Yeah. Oh, Greg's.
His story is great.
He's something else.
Yeah, he's a wild man.
That's a whole different story.
Yeah, he's a wild man, but his story is great.
But I went to work for Stavola's, and crew chief was Bill Engel. Not the comedian, mind you, but Billy Engel. And a lot of people that have been around a while know who Bill was. And,
Yeah.
and that man, to this day, I will say, and I said it back then, and I'll still say it today, the most organized individual I've ever met in my life. And when I say organized, I mean, when you went in the shop in the morning, he had a whiteboard of everything that needed to be done that day on every race car. And if we worked from, let's just say 7 to 5, if we got everything done on that list at 4 o'clock, we clean up and go home. if we didn't have everything done at 5 o'clock and it took till 8 o'clock to finish that list, that's what we did. And it was amazing because you come in, you didn't even have to ask him what had to be done. You just had to be able to read. And how that man knew, how he could lay out that schedule always amazed me. This car needs to be to this point by the end of the day. This car needs to be here by the end of the day. And damn, it always worked out. I mean, he was spot on all the time. And we went to Daytona, 1998. First trip down to Daytona with him. First morning, going to the track. All right, guys, let's leave the hotel at 6. All right, cool. Well, 5:30, I'm getting a phone call. In the room, phone's going off. It's Bill. Hello? And I'm up and I'm ready, but I'm thinking I'm gonna go down there 15 minutes early. Where are you at? I'm getting ready to come downstairs. Get your ass down here. And he was mad. And I had just started working for him, so I'm thinking, well, I already pissed this guy off, Got down there, and like a lot of people in this world today do, and I try to help my pit crew guys understand this, but I talked way too much. I said way too much when I got down there. Well, Bill, I thought we were leaving at 6, and I was going to come down at 5:45. We're all sitting here, and you're late. You're lucky we didn't leave your ass. You could be walking to the track. I'm like, wow. And I started to ask him, well, you said leave at 6, so I was going to be here 15 minutes, but I finally got enough sense I stopped talking. But
give me the shovel.
Yeah.
yeah. But that was a lesson I learned right there. That on time is not on time in racing with a lot of people.
If you're on time, you're late.
On
there is the rare get out of jail free card for if you work in the shop Monday through Friday or Monday through Thursday, however they do it. If you are late, be sure to swing by Bojangles or Dunkin' Donuts and grab donuts or chicken biscuits and bring that in, set that down on the table, say sorry, and then get to work. And
well, they can't yell at you if their mouth's full.
Exactly. That's a great theory right there. Yeah, that's a good call right there. Good call.
Yeah, that's the one get out of jail free card. Donuts, chicken biscuits.
I love it.
So, all right, Joe. Thank you for coming on, man. That's I think we touched on a lot of stuff. We could sit here and talk.
I was gonna say it's flown by already.
But yeah, that
feels like I've been here 10 minutes.
We're past an hour. So.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Really?
Yeah.
How?
Yeah, we are past an hour. So, and the only reason why we kind of got to get you out of here is because Anthony Alfredo is coming on next.
Gotcha.
But. I mean, if you are more than welcome to come back. If you want to come back at any time, we'll continue talking.
No, you guys just let me know. This is great. I enjoy this.
Did we pass the dinner test?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's the only thing we're missing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Here we are. Yeah.
Yeah. I should have made chicken biscuits or donuts. I should have brought something. But yeah, that's kind of. Hopefully, that was a good, refreshing conversation than all the crazy pit guns and different rule changes.
Yeah. No, it's good. I really enjoy talking about the older days, the golden years, like you say, and it's just fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's not a lot of guys that have been around since 1989, that are still around.
Yeah, it's getting few and far between.
I mean, heck, we're all old. We're dying off,
Yeah, you can count them on really one two hands. Like, there's not that many guys that are on just race day only, or that aren't mechanics or truck drivers or anything like that. It's moving along really fast, and even with the drivers. I mean, Matt Kenseth's signed to come back today, but
sure,
half the field is probably changed now, but half the field is under 30.
Well, you're right.
So we're moving, we're going straight to the future. We got guys like Ryan Blaney, we got Bubba, we got all that stuff.
That's good. I think that's good.
Yeah, Cole Custer, you guys got him.
Cole,
he's going to be good. He's going to be working his way up.
He's already got one cup race underneath his belt.
Yep,
he does.
Daniel Hemrick just had his.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's
William Byron's full time at 18 years old.
Yeah,
isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Wow.
And, we hadn't had that since Joey Logano.
So okay, that's one last thing that you can say about was the change when Jeff Gordon came in and those young guys came in. Was it the same reception that these guys are getting now?
That's a great question.
That is a great question. I would say no.
So is they're getting a lot more hate? Jeff got a lot more hate back then, or?
Well, Dale Earnhardt was around back then, right?
Uh-huh.
And you think about those two guys, I honestly feel there was a huge respect factor between the two. Well, I know there was from Jeff to Dale, but Dale used to just absolutely just wear Jeff out and call him the kid and the glass of milk thing that he used to do, if you remember that. So Dale used to really bust on him, but I think there was some respect there. But, back then we weren't our society was different. You could say more was on your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. We weren't as censored as we are now, right? But back then it wasn't. So from the fan standpoint, I think there was a pretty good following for Jeff Gordon, but Dale Earnhardt had a big following. And probably 70 to 80% of the people at the racetrack pretty much loved Dale Earnhardt. So that were fans and all that at the track. So when this new kid comes in and starts running good and running for wins, I don't think it was easily as accepted as it is nowadays.
True, and he was really the only one, really. Now there's so many that have come in the past couple of years that they all kind of, there's safety in numbers. They can't be picked on as being the new kid, the rookie. Like, how many we got in the Rookie of the Year this year? Way more than we've had recently.
Yeah.
3 or 4.
We went for a long time. We didn't have a rookie.
One.
Yeah, we had
one or two. Yeah,
that person that got it was the one that the only
Person who showed up the most.
Yeah, the one that was the rookie that ran every race.
And then they had to change the rule to where if you could only run like 10 and still keep your status the next year, because they were still trying to keep. They were trying to make it an actual thing still. Yep. So, all right, Joe.
Cool, man.
We'll get you out of here.
All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate this.
Thanks for coming on.
What's your? Go ahead and tag your Twitter and Instagram stuff and all your social media stuff.
Well, Twitter. That's it.
Twitter. Just Twitter.
I don't have the Instabook and the Facegram and all that kind of thing. No, just Twitter. It's at Joe Piette Jr.
Okay.
And I'm not super active on it, but I'm learning, and I enjoy interaction with people on it.
Yeah,
I'm a Twitter lurker. I am not a Twitter tweeter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You tweet because you have to for your job.
Yeah, like I'll get in there, or if I see like an argument going on about the sports side of it.
Oh yeah.
I'm very quick to clarify or help educate. I feel like that's my role that I've had. Experience in the marketing and the business side, and kind of know how this whole thing works. So
absolutely,
when you get people yelling and screaming at each other about this, that, and the other, I'm like, no, let's think of it like a business.
Oh my gosh. But you're talking yelling and screaming on Twitter.
Oh yeah.
Oh gosh, yeah. See, I'm just not there yet.
Yeah.
Is that where you start pushing your keyboard really hard? The caps lock's on.
Well, Facebook is far worse. The NASCAR Facebook crowd is woof.
Yeah, they are pretty rough.
Haven't graduated that yet, so
you're not missing anything.
Gotcha.
Unless they really respect who you are, you're not going to change their mind.
No.
Yeah.
So it's kind of pointless to really do it. You can just kind of say your worth and then get out. But all right, thank you, Joe. Again,
all right, guys.
You can find us at Young and Pruitt on Twitter and Instagram. You can find me at JackmanZach on Twitter and Instagram.
You can find me at Tall Guy Turbo on Twitter and Instagram.
Cool. See ya.
See you guys.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.